The Twa people, that information I got from Brother Ashra Kwesi, and he runs the Know Thyself organization, which deals with ancient Egyptology. I don't know if he's necessarily dealing with the science of the Metu Neters 1 and 2, which is what I'm trying to deal with, but he's the one that released the information about the Twa people, and he received his information from the inhabitants of Egypt. During his tours, he's toured for the last 20, almost 30 years now, and he's accumulated all this information. First of all, let's deal with the idea of fairy tale versus folk tale. A lot of people confuse folk tales and fairy tales. They hear actual folk tales that have been tampered with and are now called fairy tales, and have dismissed it as just such, which leaves it living as a fictional tale rather than a historical tale, which is what folk tales are. Folk tales are the histories of the peoples brought down through word of mouth, from grandmother to grandson to generation. Yeah, but people who were the keepers of the stories of the history, they were called griots. And a griot basically is the historical figure. If you look in the ancient medieval times, when they had their structures, their so-called matriarchal structures, you had your king, your queen, but you also had the jester. Now the jesters supposedly told the stories. But the role of the jester has changed. The jester now, at that time was known as like the clown figure. The stories he told were like fairy tales, or fictional stories. Whereas when the king and the queen needed counsel, or mainly the king needed counsel, who would he see? He would see the sage. He would see his magician, or the person who was assigned to handle all of the metaphysical ideas and the spiritual ideas, or the spiritual information that is surrounding them that they had no idea of. Now, the griots, when you go back to the African history, the griots were the elder people who told the stories. They held the stories of the history of their people, the history of the world, the history of the cosmos. Today, Ashra Kwesi is known as a griot. He's the one. Ashra, Ashra, Kwesi, Kwesi. Okay, he's known as a griot today, and he's actually still holding these tours, which is what I wanted to, make the Metu Neter study group part of, and anyone that's joining the Phoenix experience in the future. It's a necessity to take this tour. It's a requirement. We can't tell you, it's not enough for me to just tell you about the Metu Neter, or I should say, the language that that the history is written in on the walls of the pyramid. It's not enough for me to just tell you that it's there. You have to go and see for yourself. If you really want to know what the words are, then pick up the book and learn the language. Now the Metu Neter is what's translated into the language of the gods. This is what they called so-called hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics is not hieroglyphics. They would lead you to believe that it's not complete, and that you couldn't get, that it's not of any worth. Whereas the history of the cosmos is written in the Metu Neter on the walls of the pyramid and other buildings in Africa. Yeah. Now the moral ethical code of Ma'at is written on the wall across from Ramses, King Ramses. The moral ethical code of Ma'at consists of 42 laws, and these laws are the laws that maintain balance of the universe and the human experience. When Christianity came into play, they took 10 of those laws and called them commandments, and structured their whole system off of these commandments.
There was many more, right?
There was 32 more. Now if there were 32 commandments, I guarantee you we wouldn't be in the state of condition that we're in. Some of those laws is I will not I have not eavesdropped. The other thing is I have not. Now the other thing is all of the laws of the 42 moral ethical code of Ma'at, they're all listed as I have not, because they are to be recited once you leave the physical form. Now, when you leave the physical form and you are trying to enter into the next state of existence, whatever that might be, I'm not going to call it heaven and hell because I don't believe in heaven and hell outside of the human experience. In order for you to pass into this next state of existence, you had to prove that these 42 statements that you're naming are true. It is weighed, it is symbolized by your heart weighed against a feather. Now, I have not killed, I have not done this, I have not done that. If you notice, you look at the commandments, I shall not, I shall not, I shall not, as if it were being taught.
But it's supposed to be
being taught to who, by who. You see what I'm saying? Being taught to who, by who. You come into existence knowing these laws, knowing these 42 laws. You've lived in the existence of these 42 laws, so what are you learning? No, it is not a learn, it's a declaration. It's not a learning it's not a learning situation, it's a declaration. I declare that I have not done this. I declare that I have not done this. And if you have not done this, then you can go on to the next state of existence, whatever that might be. The 10 Commandments were taught to someone by someone who had no idea of them. Why did they not know? Because they were exiled. Why were they exiled? Because they were living an imbalanced life. They were disrupting the harmony of the community, of society. So they were ousted. Who has done that? Even, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke of the outcast who was marched across the desert, who lived in the Caucasus Mountains and was taught by who? Moses. Moses supposedly brought these 10 commandments. See, the thing about the Bible, and this is the thing that I've learned over the years, it's not that it's not a true story. It's a one-sided story. It's someone's history, not ours, not everyone's. It's a people's history, and it ain't our people. The science of the Metu Neter is a history that's well known. The science of the Egyptians is a system that is well known. The story of Horus was stolen by Christianity and called the history of Jesus, and that's what they talk about in Zeitgeist, the movie. If you have had a chance to watch that, you see that the story was taken from an amorphosized being. An amorphosized being is a being that is representative of something that is not human or not a living being, such as, planets. You look at the sun. The sun has always been something to worship. People have always worshipped the sun. It is they call it the giver of life. Now, in reality, I have a whole other theory about the sun, the mind, and the planets. You deal with the story of Horus and all of the things that are identified as telltale factors of the Christ, and that is the sun, or I should say that he died on the cross, that the three kings followed the brightest star in order to find the Christ, and all of these things are really stories, or a story about one significant thing, and that is the constellations. Is dealing with the horoscope, is dealing with astrology and cosmology. The three suns being the three stars of Osiris. Dying on the Southern Cross, meaning the Southern Cross is really the Southern crux. The three suns being the three stars being the three kings. They call the three kings, which is the three brightest stars in Orion's belt.